Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce. To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce. Our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, that puts you in queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and your questions, and we want to welcome you to the show. I see Dr. Kim is already with us. Michael's trying to get the baby down right now, so I'm going to just talk to Tim for a few minutes and give Michael a little bit of time, and then he'll join us on the show. This is our week of babysitting, Krista's first week back in school, and so we've had an awesome experience this week. So hi, Tim. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Probably not quite as good as you with that beautiful grandbaby.
She's finally gotten used to us. The first day she was a little bit upset with us, and of course it was the first time she had been separated from her mom in 8 months, and so but she's kind of gotten used to that we're okay people. So I think it's a little bit better. She's a little bit tired right now, so Michael's trying to get her down, but we're having a good time.
Well, it sounds wonderful, and we're having a little bit of a warm-up in our weather here in Illinois, and of course we're always warming to the idea of helping people learn about the process of forgiveness as it was originally taught, so things are going beautifully.
Awesome. Well, we already have a caller with us, so let's go ahead and see who we've got. Area code 786. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Hi, this is Julio from Miami Beach.
Hi.
Jeanie.
How are you doing, Julio?
Hi, Dr. Tim.
And Michael is listening. So.
Okay, I know he is. I just wanted to say that I feel the love and support from everybody, and I have. But during the last 2 weeks, since I've been back, I've been doing a lot of work and trying to set up a very important appointment with my family, and it's happening tonight. I'm meeting my family at my therapist's office for an appointment tonight, and it's very important. I got the sign that I needed to do. While at the intensive, it began to happen there, and then report coming back, I had a great experience where I was told to do this, that it would be safe, and that it was the right moment to do it. So I've set the ball rolling with this, and been doing a lot of work around it. My God, I've gone through so many worksheets and done so many things around the issues that I want to cover and how I'm feeling about doing all of this. It's been really great. But here it is today, and I can't help but to feel nervous and anxious about it. So basically, I'm good. I'm good. I've done lists. I've done the work. But since I know that my friends out there love me and support me, now I wish to ask everybody for some prayer for me and my family to be safe and do the necessary healing tonight. The healing that needs to take place for each one of us. This is happening tonight at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. So if anybody can join me in prayer at that time, I would really love you to do so.
Well, we sure will. 7:30 Eastern Time. And has everybody agreed to show up? I mean, who has your mom, your dad, your sisters?
Yes, exactly. The three,
awesome.
The four of us. I only have one sister. The four of us will be there, and they're actually very receptive. But I know that they're apprehensive and they're feeling a little anxiety themselves. I felt it, and I'm trying
just
to breathe.
Being willing.
Yes, willingness has played a big role in this, on my part and on their part as well, everybody's part.
Awesome. That's phenomenal. Well, we'll definitely hold this space. I've written it down here on my notepad beside the computer, and we'll definitely be thinking of you and holding the space. And if you have time, or we'll call you. And if you have an opportunity to talk afterwards, and that's great. And if you can't, then that's fine. We'll talk later. We'll check in with you.
I promise to share. I don't know if I'll get to do it tomorrow. I'll be on the road taking care of some clients. But if not, I'll call on Monday and share how this whole thing went down because I want everybody to benefit from this as well. We know that it helps everybody.
Oh, it's great. Well, we'll look forward to it, and we'll definitely hold the space for you.
Thank you,
You've
Jeanie.
definitely done your work. You have definitely done your work.
Well, and I want to say thank you, Julio, for the example and the wonderful report you gave last week about the interaction with your dad, and it's been very inspiring, and I plan to share it with our support group in the next week or two when our composition is up and we have enough people there. It's just a fabulous example of holding the space of love, even in the face of anger and bitterness and resentment, and how it's better for everyone when we learn to do that. So thank you for the example, and keep up the great work.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. I know you're doing great work as well.
Anything else?
No, Jeanie, that'll be it. I just wanted to get some prayer from everybody tonight.
Awesome. Well, we'll definitely be holding the space for you. And I think Michael has now joined us. So, Michael, do you have anything to add to Julio?
Well, I didn't hear the first part of it. I was with a crying baby, so I apologize. I didn't hear the first part, but I'm here if you have any specific questions for me.
He is having a meeting with his entire family tonight at 7:30 Eastern Time, so he's asked us to all hold the space during that time.
Oh, we'll be there. Absolutely. Are you still there?
Thank you. Yes, Michael, I am.
Oh. And I assume you explained kind of what's happening, so I won't ask you to repeat it. I'll get it from Jeanie. But in the meantime, the whole family meeting, I know that you are going to be the space, and you're going to have a whole lot of people who are holding that for you so that the absolute highest and best outcome possible is what comes from it. So we're here for you, and delighted to have you as part of our family.
Thank you, Michael. Likewise.
All right. Fabulous.
So our number is 646-200-4169. There's several people on the switchboard already, and so press 1. That puts you in queue to talk. Otherwise, we just think you're just out there listening. We'd love to hear from you. That definitely makes the show when we can address issues that are up for you, they're up for everybody.
And questions about the process of forgiveness. And our main focus here is to turn around the backward idea that we've been taught by Greek philosophers who've substituted themselves and put themselves in the place of the original Aramaic teachings of forgiveness, and where forgiveness is a process that happens internally and is used to remove those energies which never belonged within our human physiology. That's forgiveness. And it's nothing to do with letting other people off the hook because there's something going on inside of us that we don't want to deal with. It's how you embrace and you dive into, as Julio's talking about, he's going to dive into some issues. He's done 3 intensives in the last 4 months, and he's ready to dive into embracing all of the issues internally that would keep him from experiencing himself as his true human essence, and those family dynamics, which are oftentimes the things that need to be faced most desperately, and to be committed to maintaining human life in the process. And we have an easy experiential definition of human life. Hold a newborn child, you know exactly what it is. I was talking to a gentleman this morning whose son has spent the last 10 years in prison, and his identity, a year ago he had the opportunity to go out, and he said, no thanks, I'll just stay right here. And it would seem that it's become a safe haven for him, though he says, I don't like being in prison, dealing with his life, dealing with the world, dealing with earning a living, paying bills, the people that need to be dealt with. It seems it's easier from within the prison walls. And so I spoke with him about, making his son aware that might have become a comfortable lifestyle for him, and to work with him to stay on the straight and narrow so he doesn't purposely, perhaps unconsciously, but still purposely, head right back into a scenario that's going to put him right back there. So these dynamics of hostility, fear, grief, and pain that are internal intend to drive us into unconscious patterns, and to change those patterns becomes a major piece of work. And the forgiveness tool is a tool for doing that. And we're looking to create a space on the planet where it's safe for human life to show up, where true human life, the true human beings that we are experienced continuously and expressed in our world. And by so doing, eradicating war, become part of the team that changed the world. If you don't know about the forgiveness process, if this is a new conversation to you, then we invite you to go to our website, www.whyagain.org. And that's a brand new site that's just started operating the last few days. We've still got some challenges with it. If you find something that a link is broken or what have you, if you let us know, that would be nice. But if you go to the whyagain.org site, and on the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a link that says Start Here. That will take you right into an explanation of what the worksheets are, how to use them, where to go with them. So jump on, put the pen to the paper. There are 5 different radio shows under that link that will walk you through the instructions for the whole process. It's all there and all available, along with, 500 or so radio shows that you can go back through and listen to conversations about the ancient Aramaic idea of healing, which is the opposite of what our culture teaches. Rather than let's just take a pill and hide all this away, keep it out of sight. In the Aramaic, it was let's embrace this and let's work our way through it. So that's what we're here to support you in. And Jeanie, you've got a caller for us?
Yes, I do.
Is your mute button on, sweetie?
No, can you hear me?
I can. We got you.
Okay. It's area code 541. You're on the air. Who'd we have?
Hi there. Hey, it's Julie. And bright and early, I guess I'm one of the first callers. Michael, I was reading something from another teacher that has crossed my path in the past, and I still get emails. And the way they teach about the unconscious and subconscious, I think, is really off, actually. And they don't even talk about the unconscious. And I wondered how you define subconscious, because we didn't talk too much about that. I've heard you before once or twice.
Yeah. If I say to you, what's the front door of your house look like? All of a sudden you get an image, right? You know what the front door of your house looks like. If I say, what color is your car? All of a sudden you get information. If I say, what's your favorite item of clothing? What's your favorite food? That's all subconscious information. That's information that's available for you to recall at any moment. All you have to do is resonate the brain cells, and you go, oh, the front door of my house, it's brown, it's got windows in it, it's got a gold door handle. Oh, yeah, okay. And my favorite item of clothing, oh, it's that, suit that I love to wear, and my car is red. And that's all information that is subconscious. But when a resonating frequency comes along that fires those brain cells, the subconscious, because the amplitude of the content of those brain cells is turned up, becomes conscious. And so conscious and subconscious are changing places all the time. And it's all according to what the amplitude is of the information. So you're either not thinking about the color of your car or what your front door of your house looks like, or your favorite item of clothing, or your favorite food, because when one thing occupies conscious awareness, other things tend to go back to the subconscious level. So it's all got to do with the amplitude of the firing of the content of brain cells. Then, if I said to you, well, there's an issue in your life that's really one of your big, major core issues. It's at the root of everything that is off in your life, and so I'd like you to explain to me what that issue is. And what the average person will do when asked that question is to hold their breath. And that creates a barrier or a veil over which that content in brain cells cannot cross. And so the information becomes unavailable. It's unconscious. And that veil, that barrier, in the ancient teachings, they said the veil of the temple must be rent in twain. They were not talking about a purple curtain in a church. They were talking about the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious mind. And this temple, this body-mind unit is the temple that they're talking about, the real temple. And you, in your true being, that information that's stored has nothing to do with you. It's just information that's stored. However, if there's information that's stored that you hold your breath in the presence of, you won't let yourself access, then that will tend to be the information that will define you. That will tend to be the information that drives your behavior against your own will and choice. Why? Because it's stored at an unconscious level, and whenever someone resonates or fires that information, rarely does a person allow that information to come forward directly. What happens is they usually blame somebody else for it. They have no ownership of it, and they say, you made me angry. So now the brain cells that contain anger, that are the root of and the cause of my experience of anger, I use to build my brain's image of you. And you show up in my mind with my anger attached, and I think you're the cause of my anger. Now, I'm feeling it, but my brain's telling me that it's yours. And so as long as I remain in that unconscious state, then I'll be in indirect relationship with the content that I need to change, the content that's defining me and running my life. When I engage in the forgiveness process, I collapse the projection that it's about you. I crack open my dissociated mind, and I come directly face to face with my anger, my sadness, my grief, my rage, my fear. And as intense as it can be, now that you're back in direct relationship with it, it's changeable. You open the veil of the temple with the breath. You open the veil of the temple with forgiveness. And forgiveness is the tool with which you remove what never belonged in a human temple in the first place. The human temple was made for one thing and one thing only, and that was to embody a human life. What's a human life? Hold a newborn child, you know exactly what a human life is. Once you hold that newborn, then you recognize that this awesome presence of love is what I'm designed to function as. This gentleman I was talking about a little bit ago, whose son is in prison, he's probably in his early 40s. He's been in prison for 10 years. I asked him, do you remember the first time you held that child? And he said, yes, of course. And I said, what, if you applied a word to describe him, what would it be? Purity. Would you describe him as purity today? Well, of course not. No, he's been a crazy man. Okay. So what part did you play in causing him to move from that purity to that crazy man status? It's like, oh, God, I was drinking, I was drugging back then. Oh, man, I am so guilty. What a terrible father I am. Well, okay, so now what you need to do is to start to forgive your terrible father reality so that you can be a true father functioning as the active presence of love to support him. And you can only do that by opening your unconscious mind and cleaning it out of the content that your father and his father and his father and his father passed on to them. We all came in with that purity. And until we wake up, we're not, and remove that garbage, we're not going to function as the purity we were designed to function as. Does that give you a little insight into it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate that. That's so clear. Well, these people who teach, they're only teaching at the subconscious level as a way of manifesting, and so it can be really off if there's these unconscious drivers manifesting behind the scenes.
Yeah, let's forget about living a human life or recouping our human beingness, which is the only source of joy and aliveness that there is, and let's see if we can get you to manifest some stuff. And then when you've got the big fancy car and the big house on the hill, then everything in your life will be okay. I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were speaking about some friends who it was the first time that they'd been in a very expensive home. They were brought up in poverty, and they walked into these people's homes, and they were talking about this huge, beautiful wood foyer, and that set up envy in them for all the stuff they had. And you know how many million people there are in the world with big, huge, beautiful wooden foyers that are as miserable as hell? Lots of them. All the stuff in the world doesn't recoup your human life. But, of course, if one thinks that the drug of possession of things is a good substitute, then for a little while the possession of things will seem to be, see, now I'm happy. But, of course, that new toy, that new possession, the shininess wears off pretty quickly. The chemical high that comes from possessing things disappears pretty quickly, and then someone wants a bigger thing, a better thing. And then that one wears off, a bigger thing, a better thing, and now they're ready to kill people to get their things. They're ready to gather millions of people to go to war for them and steal other people's things so they can have this possession that would make them happy. And, of course, manifesting all this stuff in the world, if you don't have your human life, isn't worth the powder to blow it to hell. If you go back to the ancient teachings, they said, seek ye first the kingdom in which you were born, the kingdom of love, the presence of love. When you find that, then all the stuff you want or need is going to be handled. But if in all you're getting, you don't get being, then you aren't. Mm-hmm. And I did get your text about the novelist you were writing about who scintillates people's fear-based thoughts and feelings, their hostility, their fear, their terror, and takes advantage of that. And, we live in a culture that creates jobs for people who are filled with hostility and fear. You look at the average, say, for instance, sadly, police officer in our culture, the drug and alcohol abuse, the spousal abuse is horrendous. It's terrible, the statistics, when you look at them, and yet there's a job for people who live in their hostility. Now, not that all do. There are some, I think, that are very genuine and really want to be there to help people. In fact, they used to be called peace officers. But you'll notice now it's law enforcement. Law enforcement comes from a mind of hostility. A peace officer comes from a mind of love, a mind of human life, looking to bring forward more human life, to support human life in the world. But, over time, it's kind of all gotten turned backward. And you notice you never hear about a peace officer anymore. And you see all these buildings with millions of taxpayer dollars spent on law enforcement. We're going to force somebody to kowtow to our rules. And if you don't, then we'll find bigger ways to control you. We'll find bigger mechanisms to imprison you. We'll create more prisons, and we take more people to prison in this country than anywhere else in the world. There are states in this country where they start putting kids in prison at 9 years of age. We were out in Arizona a couple of years ago, worked with 100 kids from 9 to 16. It's criminal justice, very appropriately named, because sadly, human life has been disappeared, and if it doesn't start with human life, it doesn't end up well. It ends up insane. You know, we were here in St. Louis, and there's a big article in the paper a couple of days ago about the school principal, and, you know, they're kind of setting up some sort of an accountability system. If the kids aren't getting the scores on their standardized test scores, then the teachers don't get their pay and don't keep their jobs. So they uncovered a whole elaborate scheme in a school system of, I'm sure, very good people who are threatened because they're not teaching what needs to be taught. They're being forced into giving kids curriculums that don't really work, and the test scores are dropping. So the principal of the school was teaching the teachers how to scam the system so that the scores for the testing of the children went in at a higher level than one was deserved. You know, it just, wherever non-being runs the game, wherever it is, I don't care if it's military, I don't care if it's church, it doesn't matter if it's business, it doesn't matter if it's government, if non-being runs the game, then you're going to have insanity. And until human life shows up, it's run by non-being. So you look around at the whole game, and the whole game's corrupt. The whole game is insane.
It's interesting that even in the field of spirituality and New Age and awakening, it seems that non-being is out there misteaching that too. And
of course.
I wanted to, could I read about 4 sentences and see what your take is on this, because it seems like they're trying to teach, you know, but it's missing the point. Okay, it starts with, my mind is the greatest power. When I conquer my mind, I will conquer the power. My subconscious is the source of what I attract to me, what I draw to me. By entering easily into my subconscious mind, I will deeply take in the new thinking, the new suggestions, and they will become a part and all of what I am in my body, in my mind, in my emotional heart, and my beautiful soul. My beautiful spirit will awaken more and more. And this is called the yoga of manifestation.
Yeah, and, you know, they're all wonderful words if they're coming from a human being, if they're coming from the active presence of love. But as long as there's a dissociated or an unconscious part of the mind that is not opened and the content that never belonged there removed, then the manifestation is always going to be controlled by what's at the unconscious level. In the ancient teachings where they understood this, they said, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. We couldn't even translate that word heart in the West up until just a few decades ago when the unconscious was rediscovered. What we now know is they were saying, take care of what you hold in your unconscious mind. If you're engaging in any teaching that does not collapse projection and crack open the dissociated or the unconscious mind and clean out its content, then what you're doing is rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You might get a little nicer view, but the ship is still going down. Until you open that dissociated or unconscious mind and clean out its contents, not layer out. If you read my book, you'll see in Why Is This Happening to Me Again, a section where I talk about the disease of premature positive thinking. You can affirm, pretend, force, and you can force some of those things that you want to have happen. But you'll then develop into a type A personality that has to hold on for dear life, because the minute you relax and let go, the whole thing crumbles back down to the lowest common denominator, which is at the unconscious. And if one pursues cleaning out the unconscious in order to get more stuff, it's not going to work very well. If one pursues cleaning out the unconscious in order to make a place for the awakened human life to embody and express in the world, then we've got a different game going on. So that would be my take on that.
And so that also expresses what really needs to be done in the prisons, you know, to get to what the root of the behaviors have been, instead of just housing them and keeping people afraid of them. of the system?
Well, housing them and making money from them. We were out in California 2 years ago, and there were 3 prisons, or I guess they were more local, like county jails, that were about 6 miles apart from each other. And one of the people who worked within the jail system was sharing with us one of the ways that the system, the taxpayer, is milked for money in this prison game. So they bring somebody in for, let's say, a traffic charge or a DUI or whatever, and they put them in jail for the night. So what happens is that person's supposed to be delivered to the judge by the next morning. But what this little scam is that's happening out, and I forget exactly what town it was, it's somewhere around southern L.A., but the little scam that was played was the next morning they'd take this person and they'd transport them to one of the other jails. You know how much they got paid for putting the person in the car and driving them 6 miles and putting them into another jail? They got paid $750. And then the next morning, they take that same person and they transport them to the third jail. They'd get paid $750 for doing that, driving them 5 or 6 miles. And then the next morning, they transport them back to the original jail, get another $750, take them before the judge. It's your dollars that are paying for that. Everything that's run by the non-being mind is paid for by guess who? The taxpayer, who's told, well, you just have to pay your fair share of supporting a fraud. Jeanie and I, for her schoolwork, we were watching a video she had to watch for school last night, and it was on the homeless people in Vancouver, British Columbia. And the statistic that they brought forward was that the average Canadian earns and lives on $28,000 a year. The city of Vancouver spends $75,000 a year for every homeless person in Vancouver. Who do you suppose gets the $75,000? It's the scam again. It's the non-being mind. It's like, okay, here, we'll be do-gooders. We'll help the poor and the homeless. And we'll line our pockets. We'll get triple what the average Canadian lives on. We'll put it in our pockets, and we'll say, see the good job we're doing? And the guy who he actually chose to do a 30-day stint of being homeless. And he started out, and as he started to learn the ropes of the game, what he learned was that the homeless shelters that are getting a ton of money from the government are filled with bed bugs and disease and, just horrible stuff. And he did this for several nights, and finally he said, now I understand why the homeless don't go to the shelter just a block away that has lots of beds. They find a cardboard box and they take out a blanket and they go sleep in in a doorway or under a bridge or something. And he ended up, he had made a commitment to do 30 days of homelessness with he's a fairly well-off, guy with a good job. And they document this. And he wouldn't stay. He finally got to the point where he wouldn't stay at the homeless shelter because it was such a disaster. And there goes $75,000 per homeless person per year, while the average Canadian's living on $28,000.
Wow.
It's a scam. Whatever the non-being mind runs, it will tell this wonderful story. Now, the same scam is running the homeless shelters there as is running the schools with principals who instruct their teachers how to create test scores that look inflated, that look like they're doing really a great job. It's exactly the same mind that's doing that. We had a little event that happened back a few years ago, and it's interesting that the papers, and I stay out of the political arena, but the papers are, I just saw an article again in the St. Louis paper about Obama's war in Afghanistan. You'll notice that we did Afghanistan and we did Iraq all based on a total fraud, and it's still going on and pumping millions out of people's pockets. Like, there's an old song that went back, I think it was back to the 60s. When will we ever learn? When will we ever learn? It's like, it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to take back charge of our own pocketbooks, of our own lives, and our own world. Otherwise, the non-being mind will scam you for absolutely everything you have. We had a big banking crisis. All this money was lost. Where did it go? I don't think there was a penny lost in a fire. I don't think there was a penny buried in the ground. All that money's still there. Did it get lost? No, it didn't get lost. It was just transferred out of the pockets of the people who worked hard for it into the pockets of the people who didn't. It's gone. Guess where it went? All the houses are still there, all the property's still there, all the money's still there, but the ownership was transferred. That's what the non-being mind does. And until we wake up, we're going to have a bureaucracy that tries to run our world. Let's put cameras on the peons to see if we can make more money. I got a call from somebody the other day who shared, and I believe it was in Atlanta, that now they've got cameras located at street level. And if you pull your car up to a red light and your wheels touch the white line in front of you, if the wheels touch the line, they send you a ticket. Oop, another $60 in the pockets of the scammers. Another. Let's create more cameras to keep the population safe. Hello? Wake up, folks. It's not what it's about. But, sooner or later we'll wake up and we'll start to say, this needs to change. And we'll dismantle the bureaucracies. Hopefully we'll do it out of a sane, loving mind rather than out of the rage-filled mind that created it. And we'll create a different society and a different civilization, one that honors human life, one that each person honors the other. And if there are people who are in hostility or fear, instead of giving them jobs and giving them guns and saying, go for it, they'll take them in and they'll bring them healing and they'll have them restored to a human life. So that's the whole game. You saw some of that in the 17-day teacher training with the combat vets that were there and what they got in touch with that underlie the hostility that drove their behavior. And you saw the changes. That's what happens. That's what we'll do when non-human life shows up, when we awaken as a society.
So it's going to come from private enterprise, from private citizens just like you and I, setting up new opportunities and new options for people to... One person at a time. One person at a time will contribute to critical mass. When we hit critical mass, the whole game is going to change. So that's where we're heading. And Jeanie tells me we've got a couple of other callers. So unless you have another question or comment for us, let's move on to another caller. Thank you. I'm fine.
Hey, we appreciate you. I talked to Julio last night and said hello. It was really nice to say hi to her. So take care.
Oh.
Let's go to another caller, Jeanie. Blessings.
Okay. First, there is a conversation in the chat room, and then we do have a caller.
Okay.
There's someone in the chat room, and she says that she has major issues with two neighbors across the street, and they're related to each other, and then also two men that live next door. And for 6 years, they've been trying to run her from her home, from living there. And when she's talked to the police, they've told her she can't move. Her landlady's been trying to help her, but they don't like the landlady either. And
so if everybody around me is a challenge and they're the problem in my life, I don't like the neighbor here, I don't like the neighbors there, I don't like the neighbors there, and I don't like my landlady, then maybe I don't like myself. And maybe if I start doing some worksheets on cleaning up my relationship with self, my relationship with others will start to clean up. And I'll stop thinking of them as the problem in my life, and I'll start to realize that I'm the problem in my life, and I have some forgiveness to do.
And if you go to our website, which is whyagain.org, that's WHYAGAIN.org, and then click in the upper left-hand corner, there's a thing that says Start Here, and it will walk you through. I asked her if she was familiar with the forgiveness process that we talk about, which is not about letting her neighbors off the hook. She said that she just wrote back and said she just wants to die right now.
Yeah. So notice that when you start to confront the part of your mind that doesn't like you, that part of your mind now doesn't want to kill the neighbors or get rid of the neighbors. It wants to kill you. And that's just a reality in your mind that can be forgiven. Please jump on the website, access that worksheet process, and start to clean up that hostility that you hold in you that has you seeing everyone, including self, as the enemy. It's just a reality in your mind. It's not true about your neighbors. It's not true about you. It's not true about your landlady. It's only true about the content of your own mind. And if you let that run wild, it will separate you from everyone in your world. As you begin to use the tool of forgiveness and remove those things, then you'll get to come to a totally and completely different experience. And you'll see that you are and can live as the active presence of love. And the people around you will all of a sudden start to show up more and more as the active presence of love. Your whole life is going to change. Now, you could just say, that's too much work, I think I'll just destroy myself. And, of course, that's your right. But there is a pathway out of this. It's not going to be an easy pathway. It's going to take some work. But if you go inside yourself and you remove these realities, please put the pen to the paper and use the forgiveness process. And as you remove those realities, everything's going to start to change in your world. And we hold the space for that. And as you start to use the forgiveness process, again, go to www.whyagain.org. At the very top of the page on the left, you'll see a link that says Start Here. That will tell you how to engage in the forgiveness process.
And I always say it's like playing tug of war or tug of rope with someone. You drop the end of your rope, their game changes, whether they want it to or not. And so when you start changing, it doesn't mean that if they're doing something that is way off the mark that you don't hold them accountable. But if it seems like it's everybody else, go inside and see what part of you is tugging on the other end of the rope and change that.
Exactly.
And it looks like she did drop out of the chat room, so hopefully she'll go back and listen to the archive of it and hear the response to her. We do have a caller, area
and it's
code.
not, and just as a point of principle, Jeanie, before we move on, and it's not unusual when the non-being mind, based in its hostility or fear, is confronted with truth, the stress goes up, and when the stress goes up, it's like, oh, see, now you're the enemy, now I'm going to get rid of you, I'm out of here. I asked the question, but I really am not interested in the answer nor the truth. And that's pretty typical of the non-being mind because there's so much pain to be dealt with. And we just invite you to recognize if you're in pain, there's something in your mind that's correctable and it can be corrected. That's all.
Absolutely. So we do have another caller, area code 352. You're on the air. Who do we have?
Hello, 352. You're on the air. Say hello. Give us a name. Where are you calling from?
This is 352 Mary Lou at the Heartland.
Hey there, 352 Mary Lou at Heartland. How do you be, young lady?
Well, I'm surprised in the moment because I didn't really recognize that I had punched the button. But as always, 352 sort of signals I need to wake up and be conscious. So I've had a wake-up call this morning.
Cool. Well, we're delighted that you're with us. Do you have anything exciting to report from your world?
No, we're making progress in cleaning up stuff. We just finished one of the rooms from one of the support staff who's gone home for the tree house. And so we've kind of cleaned that up some, and we are put crackers in to dehydrate and getting things moved around and looking forward to a wonderful day.
Fabulous. Well, we look forward to being back home. It's looking like we might make a quick drive from here to St. Louis to see Michael J. for a day before being at home. I'm not sure how it's all going to unfold, but we're working on it.
We're in St. Louis.
In that direction.
You mean Kansas City?
Yeah, I was saying that that we might take a drive over. It's just a couple-hour drive from here to St. Louis or to Kansas City to visit Michael J.
I can understand
so what's
that.
happening? So is Joanne with you? Does she have anything to share with us today? Anything exciting in her world?
Every day is exciting.
It is, isn't it?
Yes, it is. So I'm just, as Mary Lou said, just moving through the process, but with ease and grace, and enjoying it. So that's nice. And it was interesting because we had the whole art right now. Wow. So that was a nice experience.
Right.
Anyway, nothing new, but little insights day by day that have built up. And so I know something wonderful is happening as well, through those constant drops that will break a rock. So
yes.
Anyway, that's it. Except, of course, I can never say thank you enough to you guys for providing the place and the space. And I really, really enjoy that. And I also am certain that without having an extended period of time in a way that provides not only the environment but the isolation, which is part of the environment, from the nearest places around, so that the distractions that I would normally have encountered don't exist here. And so that has enhanced the process for me, and I'm grateful for that as well. And I want to say while I'm on the phone, I heard Julio, and so obviously, Julio, you are on the prayer list, and it's already done. It's just a matter of going through the process to see what's already been done. So I just join myself to you in prayer and knowing that, as I'm sure that many other people are doing the same thing. So blessings, congratulations to Julio.
Absolutely. I join in that. Congratulations. And Joanne, from your time at Heartland, you've been there, almost 3 months now. At this point,
it was the 20th.
Say again?
It was the 20th.
Okay.
I arrived on the 20th. And today is the 23rd, I think, isn't it?
Right. There you go.
Right. Uh-huh.
It is. So I'm just wondering if you have any insights to share from what your process has been.
Well, you've heard some of them, but yes, I certainly do. One of the most profound ones was an insight that I had gotten bits and pieces over the years, and it had to do with a surgery that I had many years ago following the birth of my first child, and it ended up being, from nursing, a very painful process, you could say. And medically, how they explained it was from the nursing and the pain, there was an infection in the breast that they had to drain that. And so it caused me to be separated from my son he was 3 weeks old, and I was in the hospital about 8 days for that. And, of course, it abruptly stopped the nursing, which actually had stopped just a few days before, as soon as we could detect that there was an infection there. So it would be years later when actually not too much later, when I understood that there was some emotional stuff going on. But the new picture that surfaced since I've been here had to do with an experience of that I felt a lot of pain, anger, resentment, regret, and I could name a few more. But it had to do with me, where in Indiana, where I was at the time, it was the height of the basketball season. And my husband chose on that Saturday to send his mother to visit his wife and newborn child while he went to the tournament. And I knew that I was unhappy about it, but I didn't know how unhappy. I knew that I was angry. I knew that all of this other stuff, which I had a chit-chat, but what came to me was a part of that nourishing was feeding. I knew not to eat hot stuff, spicy stuff, those kind of things, that would go straight to the baby and through the system. But what I realized was also happening with my breast and with the baby was the energy of the anger and all the things that I named a while ago was also being transmitted. And so I could see then the hardening that I was feeling in my breast was from the hardening that I was feeling in my heart. And that was a tremendous insight. I even at this moment still feel a little bit of a charge on that. But that last insight occurred since I've been here. And so anyway, that's really, really, I consider that healing, very much so, because I know what happens to us that triggers, when we're happy. I know that we're releasing these little happy endorphins, but I really didn't give too much thought to well, what about when I'm angry? What am I releasing? Well, 30 years later, I knew I was releasing poison into the system, but I didn't know that at the time that my son was born and being nursed. And that picture just came full focus for me here. So that's one of the insights. Are you there? Am I there? Hello? Oh, my goodness. Did we?
For me?
Oh, could you hear me, or did we get disconnected?
Yeah. No, I heard you loud and clear, and I was just responding that. Take a look at how many generations of women with that kind of thing happening in our culture hardened their hearts in that way. And then you look at the ancient teachings who knew exactly what they were speaking of, and the reason permission was given for divorce was because of the hardness of their hearts. Is right. Because there were so many things in that dissociated mind that people had no idea how to resolve, and once they'd hooked it into their brain's image of their partner, it became an unresolvable situation. And that goes back into Old Testament speaking. Then you come forward, and all of a sudden here comes something totally, completely new, a solution. Not a new covenant in terms of, oh, here's the promise, all you have to do is say a magic word and everything will be taken care of for you. But no, a new level of teaching, a new level of understanding that showed you how to go into your heart and remove the wrongs of your brother. That's what Yeshua says you do. There's no idea like that in the ancient teachings in the old. It's the new level of understanding that comes forward, and the new teaching comes, but people still try to stick with the hostility, the rage, the guilt, and the fear as though that's God ordained, that hardness in their hearts, and still function out of that and do things like war and abuse. And, you know, that people think that disciplining a child has something to do with beating them with a stick or a belt, as opposed to the root of the word being disciple, which means properly taught. And so a new covenant comes, yes, a new understanding of how to go into your heart and remove that hardness, and therefore remove the hardness in the tissue and allow the tissue to go back to full function, and the relationships out of which that flows begin to change and soften and turn into truly human, loving relationships.
Well, that's true, but also what had happened is, I'll say, 25 years, perhaps, maybe even 30, after this incident with that surgery, I faced the potential for another surgery on the same breast, and I was asking what was it that my body was revealing to me, and I had a dream, and the dream said, you don't feel appreciated. And that was not my conscious thought or impression, because I had what I felt was a harmonious relationship. But the interesting thing is that what I was getting out of that was I didn't feel appreciated by my children. And so in this piece here, the start of that was with my ex-husband, whom I had been divorced from for many, many years. And it just came up that was like the core of the issue.
Well, and you look at, well, your mind says, oh, yes, I was appreciated and we had a good relationship. Excuse me, you're a woman about to deliver a baby, and a basketball game is more important?
But the difference is I wasn't connected to that when I had the dream. I had the dream in the 90s. The baby was born in 57. So I had been divorced, and when I had the dream, it just didn't show up at all. But I understand that's exactly the piece that I'm talking about. That's what came up. That was the connection. That was the core. Exactly.
It all links together. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah,
well, nice work, and that's one of the reasons for us having Heartland, is so that there is a place where people can deepen their experience of what's going on inside themselves, and to get out of the stimulation of the world and become fully steeped in the tools that allow and support the removal of everything from the heart, the dissociated mind, the unconscious, which is also the body, to remove everything that never belonged. And so we're delighted that you're there to do it and the support you're bringing to us, and we're glad to be supporting you. It's awesome.
And thank you. And the very same with you and Jeanie as well. You've been a tremendous support, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Michael.
Well, thank you. We appreciate it, and blessings.
Okay.
Jeanie, do we have
care.
another caller? Okay, we will. We'll see you in a few days.
Yes, we do. Area code 828. You're on the air.
Well, good day, Magda, your neighbor.
Well, hey there, young lady. Are you back in Theodosia?
I certainly am. Yes, I am.
Well, welcome home. Hope you had a wonderful trip up to Wisconsin.
I did, and I was probably going through St. Louis as you were coming in. Anyway, I know there's just a little time left, and I want to share an aha that I had just this morning. I was talking with Susan, one of my accountability partners, and she asked about my trip, and she said, well, Chuck and David left yesterday on their trip, and so I'm alone in this house on this property for the first time since we moved in. So Susan asked, how does it feel to be there all alone? And I realized that I felt a sense of freedom, which really surprised me. And after a little thought, I realized what that was about. And I know that my ability to see this so quickly was because of the 27 days in the workshops with you just in August. And so what the freedom, my sense of freedom was because of the level of codependence I have with Chuck and how much I focus on him when he is here. And with him gone, and this is, of course, nothing about Chuck, it's all about me and how I'm functioning. So with him gone, I'm not focusing on him. I'm just focusing on being. And so that was a really big aha.
Cool. So the next challenge is going to be in the process of healing through relationships, because what the non-being mind would counsel me is, well, all I have to do now is just go beyond my own, then everything will be okay. And what will happen is the mind will just come up with another whole set of problems. But the challenge becomes now, seeing myself in a codependent state, how do I move all of those internal dynamics that are mine into interdependent dynamics so that together we create a more awesome, more fun life and a more incredible relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, I hear you completely right on. Yes. So I'll be doing some work around that with worksheets and probably some MindShifters too. And so once again, I thank you for your wonderful tools and you and Jeanie for your wonderful being, and Hartman for being here where I am.
All right. Well, we're just about out of time, so we'll look forward to seeing you in a few days when we get back to Theodosia. And in the meantime, everybody, check out the website. That's where the worksheets, that's where the radio shows are, and we are absolutely here to support you in having the best year yet of your eternal life. Bring a stranger to the show tomorrow. We'll look forward to hearing your sweet voice. Be ready to call in with your questions, and noon Central Time tomorrow. We'll look forward to hearing from you. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.